So you want me to start, Taryn, or would you?
Sure, why don't you go ahead, Jeff, and then I can chime in with some PTO reminders, but
Great. So thank you very much for joining us. Again, if you would like to turn on your camera, you can definitely do that. You can also just watch. This is a probably more of a one-way presentation from us to you, but it is a PTO presentation, kind of a coffee, a nighttime coffee, I guess. I've got a soda, but anyway, so we wanted to make sure that we are connecting with our PTO parents, with parents in general. This is a series that Jeff does a couple of every year. This is about organization. A little bit later in the year, he does something on adolescence. But before we get to that, we're about a month and a half into our school year. I know that there are likely some questions. So we always like to start our PTO general conversations with some questions. I know that there are kind of two outstanding. So if you don't mind, I'll start with those first. The first I know is about pickup time. So if you are a parent who is picking up your child at the end of the day, whether in cohort A or in cohort B, you'll notice that there is a long line of cars to get into our pickup area. I think we've tried to make that as efficient as possible. We've probably changed the practice and process. I think the first couple of days, and Ms. Bermesh, you'll be able to help me here. I think the first couple of days we're about 15, 20 minutes, maybe even close to 30 minutes. And I think we've got it down to about 10 to 12 at this time. Is that about right?
Maybe a little bit more, but we did shave about 20 minutes off from our initial plan. We made some changes over time.
So we continue to improve that process. I think that the one thing that is surprising to me is that the line starts at about 1:15 for a 2:38 pickup. So the line does start and does build back. And my understanding is that it's probably out to about 1:21 right now. So we've had a consultant come in. We've actually turned the buses around 180 degrees. They used to all come out the middle school main entrance. So we have made some adjustments along the way, but we continue to be concerned about that line going out onto the main road. So the only thing that I can say for now is if you show up and you are there, please pull into the kind of the side in the grass area there. Yeah, and then we will just continue to make adjustments. We've talked about, so that everyone's aware, like pulling down and around the circle and in. The only problem is that what we're really, really fearful of is our student safety piece. So to have so many cars so close to the building, students potentially running out to see parents, it becomes a less controlled situation. And Jeff will be talking about the adolescent mind a little bit today in his organizational plan. And a lot of times what we're fearful of is when a student sees their parent, they just beeline and they forget about all the other things. They're looking at their phone, they're managing their backpack, et cetera. So for right now, for our student safety, we are going to stick with our current plan, but please know that we continue to review that. I do worry about the other safety. My only suggestion to everyone here is, continue to reach out to police, et cetera. We have kind of like the district piece covered. But in terms of like, that's a state road, there are all kinds of like weird, not conflicts of interest, but like overlapping pieces there. So just, again, if you want to reach out, if you want to say, there's a quagmire up on the road there, I think that would be, helpful to our cause. But for right now, just try to move to the side of the road and allow, through traffic to come through. Again, we're hoping that it continues to pick up pace. If you do pick up your child, if you were in cohort A, you received a yellow card this week so that we don't even have to ask you to roll down your windows anymore. The last name is in the window. We can call the name, get the student all the way up. So we continue to, we call names. I don't know if you've heard on the loudspeaker. So we continue to speed up that process, but I know it is a concern for our parent population. So we do continue to look at that. The other concern that came to us ahead of time was about students going out for recess. So over the past couple of weeks, we have finalized kind of like our lunch process, which classroom you should go to, what the lunch delivery looks like, how long it takes us to get lunch delivery in a school that has like kind of like 6 or 7 steps. So we have to navigate lifts and elevators, et cetera. But getting everything to those classrooms and then with enough time to take students outside. We are really cognizant of making sure that we keep our groups together for contact tracing purposes. So what we don't want on our contest field or on our backfield is all of the groups mixing up, because as soon as we do that, when we have a case of COVID, then that whole grade level, et cetera, or half the grade level, because it's cohort A and cohort B, we'll have to keep everyone home. So we keep students with their lunch area, because then we can look at their schedule and know exactly who they're with. We have other situations, like if a student does need to come into guidance, we keep track of who those students are. We keep track of students that are going to the library. So we have a good contact tracing practice right now. So that's why we don't want to mix up and just have, like, you know, again, for those people with older children, if you've ever driven past during lunch or recess, you know, it's kind of like controlled chaos out there. And it just has to be much more controlled this year. We're trying to get students out in fresh air as much as possible, knowing though that we are in a global pandemic. So we're just trying to weigh those two things and make sure that students are as safe as possible and we are able to contact trace as much as possible. So those are the two questions I know that came in. I know, Taryn, you wanted to give a couple of PTO updates. And then if you do have any other questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat. They can be for me right now. And as Jeff begins his presentation, I know that Ms. Bermise, Ms. Lee, and I will all be looking at those and trying to respond to those as we go. So just a quick introductions. Everyone knows Jeff Tepper, I believe. For our 6th grade parents, he may be new to you if you didn't have other older siblings. Madison Lee is our new school psychologist. And Ms. Bermise is our 6th grade assistant principal. So those are the introductions of everyone here. And now I'll turn it back over to Taryn.
Hi, everyone. If you haven't met me before, I'm Taryn Kendall, and I'm the co-president of the PTO this year. Good evening. I wanted to just highlight a couple of things, 3 things, before I turn it over to Jeff for his presentation. The first thing is that our new spirit wear is now on sale. It's going to be on sale until November 9th. An email went out with the email address where you can look at it. It's a lot of cool gear, so check that out. The other thing, so starting on November 9th, we're going to have a book fair, all online, and it's going to be November 9th through the 15th. So that's something exciting. And we did confirm with the company that everything will be to us in time for the holidays. So it's kind of a nice way to get some holiday shopping started. And then finally, the directory. The online directory should now be available to everyone who has purchased a directory. If you haven't purchased one, you can do so on the PTO website. So head right over there. And the paper directories, which we are going to print this year, are going to start printing this week. So we should hopefully get those out to everyone by the end of the month is the hope, or early in November. And that's about it. If you have any questions, if anything's not working, please email us at jjmspto@yahoo.com, and we'll definitely look into it and get back to you. And I guess that's about it. I'm going to turn it over to you, Jeff.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this. It's a little weird, doing school from home, but I like this presentation. I like the organizational piece. I think it's important. As I've shared with Jeff and Monica in 2nd grade, I wasn't allowed in school for more than a half a day. My mom had to pick me up from school. So obviously organization for me was an issue. So what helped me was to become organized. I also, sports was a big help with the organizational piece for me, but I'm going to share my screen with you. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to try and do the presentation quickly, because I know Jeff wants to record it, and I think the quicker we can do it and getting the information out there, the more people will watch the video, if it's not 2 hours long. So I'm going to go over the basic aspects of organization, and then after that, I'm going to go over certain particular points of organization, specific pieces. About halfway through, we're going to stop and take a look at the questions that you guys have and answer some of those. Then I'll finish the presentation toward the end, and at the end we'll open it up to you for questions you have. Okay, so let's get moving with the presentation. Okay, first got to move my screen out of the way. Okay, I want to thank Jeff, Monica, and Chantel Brooks. They're really encouraging of all the staff in the school, specifically the counselors, to do different things. And this presentation is one of them. The PTO, Taryn and Jessica and Kristen Condon, who kind of twisted my arm to first start doing these a few years back. I've really enjoyed them. I also want to thank the teachers. A lot of the teachers have shared organizational methods that they use, which is these are the people in your school and some of the methods that they use, the teachers, that is. And I want to thank you, the parents, because I get to hang out with your kids every day. And I've had the best job in the world. The friends of mine asked me, I know what a high school counselor does. What does a middle school counselor do? I said, I hang out with 10 to 14-year-olds. I have the best job in the world. So with that, let's keep moving. Okay. This thing's gonna get in my way all night. Okay. Let's lay out the problem. Our lives on a daily basis are really complicated. The individual tasks that we need to accomplish on a day can also be complicated. Each individual task can be complicated. So how do we go about our individual lives and doing the individual tasks that we have to complete, Think about it. We go to work every day and we have a multitude of things we have to do at work. Then we have to come home and take care of our kids. Well, we're doing that during the day sometimes too. We have to run a household. We have to pay our bills. We have to manage our social life, if we can manage to have one, with everything else that we're doing, and then we have to take care of all the unplanned things that crop up. I remember telling Jeff, dude, I got to take a half a day off. My refrigerator's not running. Out of the blue, out of nowhere, there's one of those things you have to organize and you have to plan for. What do you do? Then throw a global pandemic into the scenario, and that totally complicates what we do. We are going to talk later about how do you set up a remote learning environment for your child. It's a little bit different than how you'd normally set up just a homework area. The one thing I want to point out to you is we do that. Some of us more successful than others, and we have 12 years of school, potentially 4 to 8 years of college. We have a lifetime experience and all sorts of advice that we've gotten. Well, that's kind of interesting. We're doing it with all that advice. What do our kids do? Okay, our kids go to nine periods a day. They have 4 or 5 academics. They have homework. Each of those academics, homework, projects, tests, okay, presentations. Okay, this doesn't address the fact that they have a role in the family. Okay, the outside commitments like sports, dancing. I have one of my kids welds. Another one of my kids does pottery. It's cool stuff. 7th graders are awesome. And all those things that they're doing. And we can't forget what's the absolute most important thing for our kids, which is socializing and their friends. Okay. And we didn't even mention social media or technology. And the fact that now they have to wear a mask, and the fact that they have to stay 6 feet away from their friends, where if you've ever seen middle school kids, they hang on each other as just a matter of course, but they can't do that now. So all these complicated pieces, okay? So how do we manage our lives, our overloaded lives, and how do we be successful at it? The individual tasks and all the tasks together, okay? We need to be able to organize. We need to be able to put the tasks in rows and columns and know when we get at them and what we do and how do we do them. How do we manage the time? How do we plan for them? So forth. Some of us by nature are organized. Most of us aren't. Most of us, we have to learn this skill. We have to teach our kids. And I know the teachers in the school do a good job of teaching the kids how to organize the specifics of their class. I work with kids on how to organize the specifics of just their day. So moving forward. Okay. Real quickly, why do adolescents struggle? This is one of the things Jeff was talking about before. It's developmental. Adolescents are impulsive. They think of the very moment, the here and now. Okay. do they understand that if they get all A's on their report card, you'll buy them a new bike? Yes, they do. But they're stuck in the very moment from now until the time that the first report card comes out. About a week before the first report card comes out, that's when they go, oh, am I going to get that bike? So that kid who's walking out to the bus, as Jeff was saying, sees his mom, wants to tell his mom something, takes off. Doesn't think that there's other cars or buses or things around. Okay, but that's the adolescent mind. They also don't want to be uncool. They will not do their work if they think that's going to make them be cool, that their friend's not going to look at them in a strange or a weird way. They don't want to listen to our advice. We don't know anything. Sixth graders, it's a little bit better. The eighth grade parents can understand that our eighth graders, we know absolutely nothing. How we got here in our lives, they're sitting there wondering how we arrived at this place, you know, that we actually survived this long. You know, and when I wrote, they know better than we do. Of course they do. I have a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old, and my favorite presentation is the adolescent presentation we do in February. It's funny, and you'll hear all about my 18-year-old. But here's the difference between them and us. They do not have the experience. They don't have the training. They don't have the practice. So it's important for us to not just expect our adolescent to be as organized and as on top of things as we are. Okay, we tend to do this. I know as a parent I did. We tend to want them to just be on top of things. We have to help them learn how to be on top of things. Their teachers are working, you know, teachers, counselors are working with them, but they also need that help from you. Okay. Here's what we're going to go over tonight. We're going to talk about, you know, what is organization about? Okay, or it's some kind of structure that we work from. It's kind of like having the foundation of a house. The better the foundation, the higher we can build the house, the more that house can take, the more stable that house is. And I love the analogy that I came up with years ago. It's the foundation on top of which we build our lives. The more organized we are as people, the more organized our kids are, the more they're going to be successful. Okay, so we're going to go over a bunch of things tonight. We're going to go over planners, because having a planner, you know, as well as a calendar helps us. We're going to go over time management, which is probably one of the more important skills of organization. We're going to go over graphic organizers. They're really, really useful for your kid to take the information they learn in class and to synthesize it in some way, shape, or form. We're going to go over lists. I function with lists. I left work today and I had a list on where I was going. And if I didn't do that, I would have gone to Cortlandt Manor, to Somers, and to Cortlandt Manor. When I made the list and I prioritized my list, I went to Cortlandt Manor, Somers. Wow, it's on the way to Brewster. How about that? List work. And lists are super important. Then we're going to go over the color and fancy things. I have a binder that I've made up over the years, and I'll go over it with you about how kids can organize, what like a binder might look like, and what about a binder, what about organization on their desk at home is going to help them out. Ways to organize homework. And then we're also going to go over how to set up a successful remote learning environment at home. That's going to be important this year because the kids are going to be not only home, but they're also going to, you know, they're in school and they're also at home. So it's two totally different learning environments. And then we're going to discuss how you can sell that organizational system to your child. Okay, you know, kids just like us, we're a good salesman, they'll buy it. Okay, moving forward, planners. The PTO, we're very fortunate. The PTO buys our kids planners every year. This is last year's planner. I did not have the time to flip it to this year's cover, but they buy our kids these planners. What do planners do? They help us keep track of what we have to do. They can help us prioritize. We're going to go over that when we go over planners. And they can also help us check off tasks. There's a real big sense of accomplishment when you just put a simple check or you put a line through something. There's this real good feel of, I'm done, I've got it done. Wow, one less thing to do, okay? And they mainly take all the homework we might get in 4 or 5 core academic subjects, and potentially 1 or 2 others, and they put it in one place. They they organize it. They put it in one place for us, so we know where it is. Okay. Just a copy of last year's, last year's planner that we had that the PTO buys for us. Where's my thing? Let's go. My secretaries doing their wonderful job of those little changes as we go. Here's what the inside of our planner looks like. If you're a 6th grade parent, you've never seen it. Really what it is day by day, subject by subject. Okay, we encourage your child to write that in their book and to use Schoology as a backup. That they should write it in their book. That's their concrete piece. Then it's a backup. How many times we come home and the internet's not working or there's an issue with it, and now 2 hours later we're finally on and we're tired and we want to go to bed. So we encourage our kids to write this down, to write it down their planner. A few years ago, when I was starting to do this presentation, I saw an 8th grader and he looked like he had a great assignment pad, and I said, "Could I copy a page of yours?" And I, unfortunately, I never got his name, but I'm sure he's up in the high school now, and I'm sure he's heard that I use his planner or at least a page out of his planner all the time. If you look at what this kid's planner is, what did he do? He wrote it down, and then the night before, he's checking off what he does. So he knows all the homework he has. It's in one place. It's concise. I'm not pulling out 15 pieces of paper. I'm not rethinking, oh, what did Mrs. Belanda ask me to do today? I'm not doing that. I have it in one place. And then this kid, when I saw the binder, I was like, oh, this is awesome. He checks it off when he's done. Kind of powerful. We have no checks. As you get toward the bottom of that list, you've got 2 checks, you've got 3 checks, you've got 4 or 5 checks. Wow, it's great. I'm done. The rest of the night is mine now. And that's a powerful piece of it, of seeing yourself accomplish it. Here's another thing that I think is really important, and I will do this with kids when I sit down. Same planner that we saw before. The difference is, you see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this is going to be dependent upon each kid. Prioritize how you're going to get your homework done, especially for the kid that struggles with attention. We can't expect that kid to sit down and bang out an hour and a half's worth of homework, an hour and a half's worth of homework. It's not going to work. Okay, so and then what do you tackle first? And for each kid, it's different. Some kids, they want to tackle their hardest subject first, get it out of the way. Other kids are like, nope, I want to get the other ones done. So when I tackle the hardest one, I only have one thing left. Some kids like to do their favorite first. Some kids like to do their least favorite. But a kid could walk home, take his assignment pad out, and number how he's going to tackle it. And that could switch from day to day. Part of our work in helping kids organize is sitting with them as a parent and saying, hey, what do you think? Let's look at this. What's the first one you want to tackle? What's the second one you want to tackle? What's the last one you want to tackle? Well, I want to save Spanish for last, Mom, because you know what? I really like Spanish. That's my most fun class. I want to save that for last. Great. Then the other kid wants to do it first. So it's just a good technique, simple, just using that planner just to go ahead and figure out how am I tackling this. Schoology can supplement or take place or fill the missing pieces of the planner. Okay, I'm not a Schoology pro yet. I'm learning it as we go. But that's important. Talk to your teachers. You can always talk to technology about hey, is there this aspect on there? I know there's a webinar for parents on Schoology on our webpage. If you go to our webpage and you go to Schoology, the webinar for parents is right there where you walk through Schoology. Calendars can be as useful as planners. I'm going to go over a few examples of them in a minute. Consistency here is the key. It takes 21 days to create or to break a habit. So if you can get your kid to write in their planner for 21 days in a row, and then prioritize it for 21 days in a row, what's most likely going to happen is they're going to automatically do that now when they came home. It's a habit, just something we get used to doing and we do automatically. I'm going to encourage you to look at the successes before you set rules and consequences. As a counselor, one of my chief goals is to take a child who may not be maybe have a couple subjects where they're not doing well, but have a couple where they are doing well. I want to find out what they're doing well in those subjects and use what they're doing there in the subjects that they need to improve upon. So I would use that ahead of time. Okay, it's funny and it's also silly, but when you hear of training animals, especially like dogs, we don't praise that dog when it gets to us, after it's gotten to us and it's done the task we're asking it to do. We praise it on the way. So when your child's starting to fill out the planner and they have it in the past, and you walk by and say, wow, great job with the planner. That's cool. You have 5 things checked off already, only 1 to go, huh? So you promote that success. You build on that success before you go to say, consequences and things that your kid doesn't want and you don't want either. Rewards are going to usually promote success. Okay, moving on. Time management. We're going to go through time management, and this is probably one of the more important tasks that we all have to handle. Then we're going to stop and we'll answer some questions you have. After the questions, it'll take around 5 minutes or so to answer questions. Then we're going to jump back on and finish up the presentation. Time management. You need time management for long-term for assignments, for daily and weekly assignments. You need it for just assignment by assignment. How long is this going to take? How do I figure out how much time I have? It is definitely one of the most important organizational tasks to tackle. Let's look at a couple of the slides. Last year, our teams put out calendars, and I talked to David Lay, who's who was and is the team leader for GRIT. And David said that they don't use this calendar anymore, but they now have a calendar on Schoology. So they're on their Schoology page, on their team page, they have a calendar where you can see what needs to be done. Really helpful for your kid. We have the planner, which goes day by day. The calendar does the month for them. So they can start to work on, when do I study for a test? When do I have this coming up? When is that assignment going on? Oh, wow, I have an essay to write, but we're also starting a social studies project. I should probably maybe bulk up on that essay and try and get that done. That's part of the benefit of calendars. But let's break down the calendars a little bit. One of the things I've talked with kids about, and I really believe in, when you're doing long-term planning, I like to do something called reverse engineering it. And when I get that project that says, okay, I have to do that social studies project on World War I, World War II, or the Revolutionary War. The first step I'm going to go to is that number 1 circle. Okay, this is when it's assigned. The second step for me is, now when is the project due? Because I need to know that time. Because when I look at the project and what's involved, I have to do research, I have to do an outline, I have to do a rough draft and a final draft. And if you look at the calendar, what are we doing? We're breaking it down week by week. So I get the project on the 1st. By the 8th, I want to have my research done. By the 15th, I want to have my outline done. By the 5th, by the 22nd, I want to have my rough draft done. And I know my final project needs to be done on the 29th. So calendars can be a really, really useful tool for, to plan. It's another kind of planner for a kid. Okay, going back to the planners. The reason I put this in there, the calendar's planning a month at a time. This is planning a day at a time. Okay, and again, it's a planner that's being done a day at a time. Here's something that I've given to parents in the past. I have a sheet like this in my office that literally goes half an hour by half an hour and has the whole week on it. When I have a kid that's really struggling to get their homework done and they're missing a lot of homeworks, I may sit down with them and go over this and go over, okay, well, you dance, and I've had kids, they dance 4 days, 5 days a week. Well, when we fill this out, we need to block out that time for dance. And when is the time we have? And it helps a kid to manage, well, how do I fit everything into this time frame that I have? And that's the trick to time organization. We might look at Wednesday, and on Wednesday, I might be talking to that kid and saying, hey, you have soccer, and you had dance on Wednesday. Yeah, you're at a loss for time here. My advice is you get some of your homework done at lunch. That might be Wednesday might be the day where you go, hey, no, I can't go out and walk around the track. I gotta get this done because I don't have time on the back end when I'm home at night. And again, that's just helping a kid to say, hey, this is the time you have, and this is how you use it. And sitting there, if you want, I don't have this presentation will be shared. I don't have the one I'm talking about that goes half an hour by half an hour, but by all means, I could send that to anyone if you need it. Okay, when kids struggle on assignments, especially a homework assignment, you need to limit it to 20 to 30 minutes. And when you talk to our teachers, that's what they're going to tell you. If your kid's working for 20 minutes and they're close to the end, they got another 1 or 2 math problems to do, fine, they can finish it. But if they have 10, 15 math problems to do and it's 20 minutes in and they've got 1 or 2 of them done, that's where you stop and you have your child email their teacher. Okay, it's not going to work for them if we force them through it and make them work 30, 40 minutes on the same assignment. They're done after the 20 minutes. So that's where we need to tell the teacher, hey, Susie or John's having a hard time here. If they can't finish it, they totally don't understand their homework, have them email their teacher. They've heard from me since the beginning of 6th grade about being a responsible learner. And when I'm talking to a kid and the kid said, yeah, no, I really had a hard time with my homework last night. My initial response to your child is, oh, you emailed your teacher, right? It's your job. It's their job to email their teacher. And they've heard from me since the beginning of 6th grade about being a responsible learner, about school being their job. So they would email their teacher, and their teacher, by all means, will then help them the next day. I had mentioned this before, kids who have attentional issues. One of the things that's beneficial to do is to maybe set a timer. Like me, when I was in that 2nd grade class, I was not going to sit down and do an hour's worth of homework. I had to do one thing and then go outside and run around, literally run around. Okay, question break. What questions do we have?
I have a question, Jeff.
Sure.
Okay, so parent asks, I'm just going to read what she said. We don't know anything. Basically, the child is saying that the parent doesn't know anything and that doesn't take the mom's advice and says things like, Mom, this is ridiculous. I don't need to do that. And the question from mom is, how can we help them be more organized if they don't listen to us?
There's the adolescent piece where in its head again. What I would say in a situation like that is that give me a call, give one of the other counselors a call. We could walk you through how to deal with that child. There is a way that not every adolescent doesn't 100% totally want nothing to do with their parent. They want a lot to do with their parent. They just want to be able to do things independently at the same time. So they're caught in this big crux. So I would be more than happy to talk with you. I know my colleagues, Jen and Anne-Marie, would also, Madison would, to help you to guide your child. I've had parents say, could you sit with my child and talk about that? They'll listen to you. They won't listen to me because I don't punish them. That's why they listen to me. I don't give them consequences. So they will listen to me because they don't see me as that person that's hanging anything over their head. Basically, the long and short of it in my house was, I'm sorry, this is what you have to do. And I'm going to look at your homework because you're not doing your homework.
Yeah.
Any others, Monica?
Yeah, that's a good answer though, Jeff. I think, that's such an important piece. Like our students, the students listen to us. At home, they don't. We call our own kids counselors and say, can you please talk to our kids because they don't listen to us at home. So that's definitely, I think we play both sides as parents and as educators.
Madison, did you want to share something?
I was just going to say, a lot of times when I have, you know, a child that might be resistant, and granted, again, echoing what everyone has said, it can be different at home versus coming from someone at school. But I usually like to take the approach of almost like a beginner's mind, or being like a scientist. So you don't know that it doesn't work until we try it. So oftentimes if a kid, you know, comes in and is like, this is silly, this isn't going to work for me, I say, okay, let's, you know, can we try it for a week and see what worked, what didn't work? You know, is it that it took too long to write it down? You didn't know when to write it down? And then try to get their feedback as additional buy-in into, you know, modifying the plan to how it might work best for them. So that's another approach to try at home, but I absolutely understand it might not always work coming from mom or dad, whoever else is sitting with them, placing these demands at home. So we're happy to help in school as well.
So yes, we do have another question, Jeff. So parent says, I have two challenges: technology distraction by going on the phone when doing homework. Second, friend wants to FaceTime when doing homework to do it together. That's that peer pressure piece.
It's one of those things. My older son did that, sometimes it was really beneficial and sometimes it wasn't. You know, the technology piece is that there's one thing I do talk about later on, and it's talking about, you know, that you need to commit to do something. We've all seen people do something's half. And if I do it halfway, I get a halfway result. So the aspect of when I sit down and do my homework, I'm really focusing on my homework. So I'm not doing something else. And I just got off the phone with my 18-year-old today and talking about college and talking about he stopped on the way halfway to college and did his class on Zoom in his car. Needless to say, that's not the $63,000 college question I wanted to hear from him. But I basically, my exact statement to him was, you're not committing. I want you to commit to it. And when you want to do something successfully, you have to commit to it. You know, is your coach at soccer going to allow you to be texting in the middle of a drill? Absolutely not. And kids know that. So, you know, so that's it. So I would basically say, listen, put the phone in the kitchen, go do your homework. Great. It's your phone. I'm not taking it, but it's in the kitchen. If they want to work with a friend, just say, okay, you want to work with a friend. I'll let you start that, but keep the door open and I'm going to be buzzing in. I want to make sure you guys are really, really doing the work. I have had that situation with middle school kids where it has been beneficial to them. You know, what I would say is, as a parent, you know your kid and you know whether that's probably going to work for your child or not work for your child. But the phone piece, if they can literally leave the phone there and not touch it while they're doing their homework, that's great. If not, it's got to stay in the other room. You know, in the middle school, phone has to stay in the locker room when we're in a non-COVID situation, in the locker, that is.
That leads to a question that says, do you recommend or discourage students doing homework together? I think we got that answer from you. It depends on the child.
It can be really beneficial. It can be really beneficial. And it might, you know, even if your child has a tendency to, you know, maybe goof around that situation, if you guide it, it might end up being a really productive situation.
I like the piece how you said, you know, have the door open, right? So if you're giving a bit, which is, okay, sure, have your phone, work with your friend, then the door needs to be open. It's like, I give you a little, you give me a little. So that if they all of a sudden then the door's closed, then you know what, this isn't working out. The phone can stay in the kitchen or wherever you decide as a family.
Your children have heard me say over and over again, school is your job. That when we're doing the census, and I told them this last year, they're going to do the census next year. When they do the census, your name's going to be on a computer in Washington, D.C. Freaks the kids out a little bit. But then we basically say, but then I say, and underneath on my name, it says counselor coach. What does it say for your job? And there wasn't a group that didn't get, I'm a student. That's your job. So you come to work every day. Any other questions, Monica?
No, not that I'm seeing.
Okay, then I'm going to move on, and the next thing we're going to talk about is really important, and that's graphic organizers. A graphic organizer is going to take your material, organize it in a way that tells us what we need to know and how do we use that information. They come in an endless variety. Okay, and something that's used for science can easily be used for social studies if that fits for your kid. Okay, almost any graphic organizer that's, as I said, that's set for one thing can also be used for another thing. And I'm going to go over a lot of them. I'll go over them pretty fast because they're pretty much straightforward. And the PTO is going to have the presentations. You could always download them and use them. This is important. As parents, we tend to kind of dictate to our kids what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. Sometimes, like the phone situation we just talked about, that's important. Keep in mind, graphic organizers are not rubrics. They're not how you do something. Don't box a kid into having to use this specific graphic organizer all the time for social studies or all the time for English or so forth. Because that way on how to write an essay may not be what they're doing in this project. They might be doing something different. But the rubrics are super helpful. And again, I'm going to go through a lot of them. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory. Topic, subtopic, what I learned. Okay. Topic could be, animals. Subtopics could be mammals and, mammals, reptiles, amphibians. And then what did I learn? Same thing, just in a different format. One kid might be a little bit more wordy than the next, or this is the thing that works for them. The other kid likes the bullet points that works for them. A sequence chain. Now, if I'm writing an essay, this might not really work for me. It might work for me. I might say, I might in the top say, what my opening statement is. In the bottom, what my closing statement is, and then these are the things I'm gonna basically say or defend in my essay. However, this is something that probably works for either history or science. How does that work? What happens as that frog grows? What's the chain, the sequence chain? Great study skills. Okay, graphic organizers are awesome study skills. I know the information I have, and now before the test, I'm going to put it in this graphic organizer. That's now going to organize it not only on paper, but in my head. Now I understand it, and I'm going to file it away that way. And during the test, I get to pull that graphic organizer that's in my head out. This is awesome, where if you have different animals, you have mammals and you have amphibians. What's similar? What's different? The North and the South. What's similar? What's different? Okay, and again, just graphic organizer, great way to use stuff. Here's another one, my topic, and you go off on raise the subtopics and details. A little bit different. This maybe something you use for an essay. My introduction, my conclusion, and the four things I'm going to defend. Another simple style like that. Okay, some kid might like this. This might be good for the kid that's the NCAA basketball tournament, March Madness. Here it is. Here's the main idea. Instead of narrowing it down, they're broadening it out. But it kind of looks like that March Madness thing we use, and it's pretty simple. What's the main idea? What are the supporting ideas? What's the details? Again, your child might like this. The other child might like that nice, neat and orderly, organized fashion of that initial one. Here's another one some kids might like. This would be maybe for that artistic kid who doesn't like to be caught in the lines and blocked in. Stacy Husband, one of our English teachers, gives this graphic organizer. It's actually the filled in one. She gives this to her kids on how to write an essay. And this is what the 7th grade teachers use. This is how you write an essay. Okay, again, this is a graphic organizer. Then And the nice thing about graphic organizers is if your child's teacher comes home with this, you could then go and do this and hand your child a graphic organizer. Hey, you think this might work for you? This is what Mrs. Husband does. I took away the words on the inside. Here you go. Fill it out. That might help your child a lot.
Jeff, a question that's coming in is where can I get all of these graphic organizers? Is it possible that you post them somewhere for families?
Yes, I am going to do that. I'm gonna send Taryn the PowerPoint tomorrow morning, and then I'm also gonna try and dig up the actual graphic organizers so I could then scan them, because these are on the PowerPoint, so they might not download comfortably. But I'll also try and get the others tomorrow morning. And again, the key thing, Monica, is just for parents, is just you could make this up. You could make these up as you go. There's no rhyme or reason or rule to the graphic organizers. Whatever helps your kid to organize the material, to help study, to just understand it, that's the graphic organizer that works for them. Okay, next thing I want to go over, and this is one I really feel strongly about. As I said, when I left work today, I had a list in my pocket. I had a list on my desk today, is lists. What do lists do? They put tasks on paper. They make them look black and white. So all the things that are spinning around in your head that you have to do, when you put it in a list, it's now black and white. Almost all the time, when you're thinking about everything you have to do and it's spinning around in your head, it seems a lot bigger than it really is. When you put it in black and white in front of you, you almost always go, that's not as bad as I thought it was. And I live by lists. Now if I remember to look at them, that's a different thing, but I live by them. It makes something not feel overwhelming is the key thing. Phone numbers are 7 digits. Why are phone numbers 7 digits? Because when they did research, they basically said short-term memory, the average person can retain 7 things. After 7 things, the average person, unless you have some incredible short-term memory, you start to lose things. There's your list. When you list it, you don't lose it. Okay, checking off or crossing things out. For me, when I take that Sharpie, black Sharpie, and I go across that thing I have to do, oh my God, it's so powerful. It's so empowering. One more thing done. Wow, I might get to the end of this list. And they can be used in any manner for almost anything we're doing. It could be the kid managing their day when they get home, managing their week. Okay, like I said, I always have one in my pocket. Remembering it sometimes can be a challenge, but they're super useful. Simple thing to do. I love this for middle school kids, because middle school kids, especially adolescents, they have to do everything. But I have to call my friend. It's a must. I must call my friend. I have to call my friend. And reality is, when you have a kid put down, what are the musts? What are the I wants? Do my homework. I must do that. Walk the dog. I must do that. Okay. Call my friend. I want to do that. Okay. I might feel like I must, and there's understanding your adolescent a little bit. I get it. It's a really important conversation, but it's an I want to do. You got to do the must first. This is a really good, useful one for a kid. Here's another one. Basically, just if you have a child that struggles to bring all the materials home from school, to get up and get dressed in the morning, to pack their materials at night. Okay, first of all, if they struggle to pack their materials at night and they're packing them in the morning, chemistry for disaster. It ain't gonna work. So something like this, and again, this is just a simple idea. You could tweak this to anything that you need to get your child organized and motivated. And it could just be lay out my clothes, pet homework away. And I've had kids where we've made them up where it's literally nitty gritty. Math book put away, social studies book put away, English book put away, homework put away, because this kid would have forgotten anything and everything. And however it works for your kid. Real simply, you can do a point system. If your child does this every night and they have 10 things to do and they do all 10 things, well, they get 10 points, and that builds up for the end of the week or the end of the month. Okay. Neat thing about this is, if your child loves to go to Carvel with you, And at the end of the week, if you get, 70 out of 100, or 80 out of 100 checks, we're going to Carvel. Think about what we just engineered. Do you like to go to Carvel with your child on an experience, sharing an experience that they did successfully? Well, we just engineered a really fun time for us as parents. And we helped our child to be on top of what they're doing. So that's another way you can do it. And again, I'm going to say again, call me, call Jen or Anne-Marie, call Madison or Ray DeStefan. We'd be more than happy to go through stuff like that with you if you're stuck on that piece. This is something from my garage. Monica likes this slide from a couple years ago. I made this graphic organizer for me with 3 columns, and somehow I messed it up. And every time I printed it, I got a blank, a page with 3 columns blank. So I actually used it. I used it at home. What do I have to do in my yard? What do I have to do in my house? What do I have to do miscellaneous stuff? During the summer when I now have time to tackle some of these tasks. And again, the black lines, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. When I actually looked at this the other day, most of these I've gotten done now. It's from a couple of years ago. Most of these I've actually accomplished, which is pretty good. Something I had a kid do years back, I actually pulled a kid in and I basically just said, okay, what are the things you have to do today when you get home? And the kid just rattled off these things, and he had to do his homework, he had to study for math test, he had to walk the dog, he had soccer practice, he had to download three songs. And the kid gave me this whole litany of things that he had to do. And I wrote them down. I said, thanks a lot. I'm not going to use your name. You're good. And so this is what your adolescent might do if he's making a list for himself. He might turn around and just say, I got all these things to do. Then what I do on a list like this is I start going, what's number 1, what's number 2, what's number 3? Well, I got to walk the dog, because if I don't walk the dog, mom and dad are not going to be happy about the results of that. So number 1 priority might be walking the dog. Number 2 becomes my homework, and then down the line. Interesting. You have a kid. What do you have to do? If we can train a kid to do this, that's useful. Then they get home with the list, and this is the kind of thing they can literally scribble on a piece of paper, put it in their pocket, come home, pull it out, and number it from 1 to whatever. Color and fancy things. Okay, this is what I'm going to show you. Our kids carry a binder. I'm sure a lot of our kids are still carrying a binder, but now the thing is, now they come home and now their binder becomes a desk. Some of the important things to do is color coding, things like that. A kid needs to have their supplies in their binder. They need to have their book bag and their supplies in their binder with pens and pencils. And again, I hear all the time kids from teachers, this kid shows up and he has nothing to write with. Sometimes nothing to write on. And we got to talk with the kid and say, I asked the kid, where's your binder? Let me see your binder. After this, the kid needs his assignment pad. Then we start getting into stuff like homework. And I love to help the kid out with a to-do and a done homework folder. Some kids like to put their homework in their actual subject folder. But then when you get into it, dividers, okay? Are we going to divide stuff? This is a thing that I really like for kids. If my spiral notebook is yellow, have a yellow folder. That's English. Then maybe when I get to social studies, it's purple and purple. Little things like this. If you were to come into my office in guidance, and one of the next times you're there, look at my desk, you will see file folders on my desk. And there's a blue and a red and a green and a manila. I know exactly which folder I need to pick up when I have a CSC meeting I have to go to. That's the red folder. I was in that today. Super helpful. Okay. One of the ways to get your kid to do this and to get your kid to do organizational things, if you've ever watched the detective show Columbo, he is expert at having people do and say things he wants them to do. So you sit there and you look at your kid, I don't know, what do you think would be a good way to organize all your books and folders? That's the Columbo approach. Because what does Columbo do? Columbo, then the kid goes, well, I could do it by color, Mom. The most powerful organizational thing for a kid is when they come up with the system. And if we can help them to do that, now they own that system, and that system is theirs. So again, color fancy things, breaking it up, whatever works for your kid. If you're working with your kid and it's not happening, send them in to me. I'd be more than happy to sit down with them and figure out how to make that system work. But again, ask them how it's going to work. What do you think? Okay. Typical homework outline. When you get home from school, everyone's got to take a break. I don't know about you, but I'm assuming you don't like to get home from work, get out of your car, jump on the ride a mower and start running around cutting the lawn. For me, I like to go inside. I like to check the messages, look at the mail, maybe answer an email, look at an email or two. It gives me a little bit of a break in between work and work. Then maybe I go outside and I start doing something on the lawn. It gives me a break. It's important to take a break. For your kid, that could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever works for them. Also, depending upon that time management piece. For them, it might be going on their phone. It might be listening. It might be listening to music, watching TV. Okay, the next thing, and I talked about this before, turn off the iPad, the TV, the computer, your phone. Make a commitment that you're doing homework, that it's important to be done, even if you don't like it. Make a commitment. The sales pitch there is, besides for school is your job, the more you commit to it, the quicker you're going to get through it. Because your energy and your enthusiasm is geared into it. Here's something I love for kids to do. If kids come home, they do their homework, the one thing I tell them is, right before you do your homework, review your notes. It's going to take you 3 to 5 minutes in each class. So it might take you 15 to 25 minutes total for the day. However, when you sit down to do your homework, you're not referencing your notes again and again and again. So a 10-minute homework takes you 20 minutes because you kept going back to your notes in the book. When you read your notes before you do your homework, it takes you 3 minutes to do them. You can now blow through your homework and you have all the answers fresh in your head. And you just studied. You just studied and got your homework done. And you end up saving time in the end. Then basically study for any test you have. And the last thing is, and this is important for a kid, this is a sales pitch for a kid, the rest of the night is yours. You own the rest of the night, it's yours. You're done, the rest of the night is yours. Okay, ways to organize homework. You have to have a system. Consistency is what's gonna make that system automatic. We need to be flexible. If a system isn't working, we need to sit with the kid and say, hey, listen, do you think this is working? And I don't think so. Okay, what could we do different? Okay, life isn't static, it's fluid, so's the system gonna be. Okay, real quickly, we're getting towards the end. I wanna go over just like a wrap up, but first I wanna talk about setting up a successful learning environment, a remote. You need to set up a well-lit, ample workspace. I know some kids work in their bedroom and it's dark. That's in a dark room. That's it's just not connotative to being successful and doing work. You also need workspace. A kid can't be working on they have a little school type desk. It ain't gonna work. They need to be able to spread out. They need to be able to, because now they have their iPad, they've got their book, they've got their spiral notebook. They've got a lot of stuff going on. The space needs to be free of distractions. And again, your kid, they can have their phone in there and in between classes, do a text, fine, great. If they can't, that's got to leave. And again, your kid. Have all the supplies that they need there for them. The last thing you want a kid to do, and if kids are being honest, they will tell you straightforward, there is way too many distractions in my house. It is hard to do distance learning. There's way too many distractions, no matter how dedicated or purposeful of a student I am. If we don't make sure that our kids have all our supplies there, they're going to go and hunt for it And just like you or I, we're going to get distracted. We're going to get picked up by other things. Coordinate subjects. That's what we were just talking about with the binder, such as color coding it. So if I know it's English, I grab my my red folder and my red book. That's going to help me out a little bit more. I know recently we've had that CNN thing that we heard about yesterday or the day before. But it's important. I feel it's important for a kid to get up, to dress as if they're going to work. Even if it's a pair of jeans, t-shirt, if they would normally wear sweatpants and a t-shirt, but to do that. Maybe even put on a pair of sneakers. There is a marked difference between the pajama mode and the work mode. And yes, some people can work in pajamas. Most are going to feel like they're in pajamas. Okay, it's again, the quote unquote, it's the I'm ready for work, and it's just, that's just the way it is. Get dressed, get ready for work. Have your child use their homework agenda book. It's super important. For all the things we just cited, first of all, it takes all the stuff they have to do and it puts them in one spot. Secondly, they now know what they have to do and it's right there. They don't have to search on the computer to go looking for things. Communication is the key. They've heard me talk about being a responsible learner. If they're struggling on homework or they've forgotten homework or they can't do it or whatever happened, have them email a teacher. If a kid can't get on a Zoom, I've said to many kids this year, did you email your teacher? But she's not going to answer it during the class. Might not be able to. But at least after the class, she's going to see that you were there trying to get in, that's important. Technology can be a glitch. We're having less and less technology issues week by week as we go through school, which is great. From that first week where we were getting all this new stuff going to now, it's night and day. If you and your child cannot fix an issue, please email the student help desk at klschools.org. They are awesome. They are wonderful. Mike, who's in the hallway for us every day, I can't say enough about Mike. Okay. Lastly, make sure your kid takes a break. They need to take a break. Okay, like you or I need to do, where we get up and we grab a cup of coffee, we go for a walk. They need a break. They can't just sit there all day. In school, they get a break. Every 42 minutes, they get up and walk around. They also in school usually get to talk to their friends and have fun. A kid last year spoke to, who I was speaking to him and his parent. The kid said, yes, but you're making me do all the work part of school and I don't have any of the fun part of school. And I had to look at the kid and say, you're right. The social aspect that kids love about school is restrained for them. So they need breaks. Moving forward, okay, here's a summarization of the whole darn thing. You have to have a plan, you have to use your plan, and you have to review and revise your plan. Yeah, and some of your kids, when you tell them that, they're just going to roll their eyes because they've heard it from me over and over again. You have to have a plan, you have to use your plan, and you have to review and revise your plan. I just talked to a kid yesterday where I said, if I gave you a $100 bill and you put it in your pocket and never used it, could you buy anything cool? No. So you have a plan, but you're not using it. How does that help you? You have to you have to use a plan. Organizing our kids, just to summarize the whole thing up, we have to start with a good homework system. And again, I've laid one out there. Ask them about upcoming tests. What the subject is in. What do they need to know? Again, play Columbo with your kid. Oh, what do you learn in science? Wow, I don't think I ever learned about osmosis in school. So what if you did? Play it. They're going to start telling you about osmosis. And the one thing we know, if you can teach someone about something, that's the best way to learn it. Let them teach you. Yes, it's going to take a little bit more time on your part. Decide together potentially on the effective way or a couple of different ways to study. 7 or 8 different ways to study for a test is not going to work. If it's index cards for your child, if it's a graphic organizer, then maybe they do those too. They should not be doing 7 different ways. review the results of homework and studying systems, make appropriate changes. And again, that's going back to that. Have a system, use the system, revise the system. If it's not working, we need to look at it again. And again, this is going back to your kids. Communicate with teachers when they have questions. Okay, when you have a question, I advise parents, those short, quick emails are most effective to teachers. And you know it as well as I do. When you get an email that's a page and a half long, we go, okay, I have to come back to this in a few minutes. I don't really have the time right now to really give this the justification that it needs. But the one-line email, the two-line email, I read that right away. And your teachers your teachers respond to you quickly that way. I know they do. Again, having kids communicate with teachers puts them in the driver's seat. It gets them appropriately involved and building their future, their success, their independence. Again, the Columbo approach, have them tell you or show you. It's more time, mom and dad, for us, because you're sitting there, you just want them, they know what they have for homework and is it done, and show me what it's done. If it's not working, you might have to spend some more time. Keep in mind, you do that for 21 days, potentially you don't have to do it anymore because they're going to start doing it on their own. Okay, and that I went into the next thing. We want our kids to figure it out. We want our kids to know it. However, sometimes we have to walk them through things. And even though the parents said before that they're resisting a little bit, if you can walk them through there non-judgmentally, then we do plant seeds at times. And all of a sudden, that child might say to that parent, hey, you know what I'm doing now? And that parent just looks up at the sky and goes, and you desperately want to say, but that's what I told you a month ago. But don't say that, because they're going to say you didn't tell them. But your seed is what's helping them to do what they have to do. And again, tweak and adjust, tweak and adjust, tweak and adjust. Don't ever hesitate to call us if you're doing something and you just say, hey, this is where I'm going. Help me out. What's the next step here? We'd be more than happy to do that. And that is all she wrote. Questions?
Yes. So I have a question from the audience. Well, actually, I would start off by saying a lot of the parents are requesting the sheets that you have in your PowerPoint.
Will do.
So we will find a way in order to share those sheets with you so that they're printable and you can try them out over time with your children. A question. So we are finding that Wednesdays, asynchronous days, are overwhelming. There seems to be a lot of work in every class. We tried approaching the work in order of my child's schedule and setting a timer, but we are still working all day long. Any thoughts on how to approach Wednesdays?
Your child's in school for 6 or 7 hours, and they're going to be working throughout those 6 or 7 hours. So my first question would be, are they working for those 6 or 7 hours that they would normally work in school? And it just seems overwhelming because they're home. That would be my first question, because we have to think about it. It is a full day of school that they're going to. They're just home. And then I would like to, that's someone I would like to talk to, because I want to find out, is that happening every day? And get a feel for, do I need to sit with this kid and help this kid manage things a little bit better? And maybe even talk to the teachers about that.
Thank you. So taking notes is a question, and are we teaching children to take notes? And if I could just help answer that, I do know the teachers are posting information and packets per se, and having the children draw upon those resources. So in the older grades, probably 8th grade, where maybe there's more lecture style for certain classes, if you find that your child isn't taking notes, that would be something to please reach out to the teacher to say that what I'm seeing is that my child is not taking notes in your class. Is there anywhere that I can get the resources for that, or my child can then use the resources you're providing? I know in a lot of those courses, teachers are providing information that your child would then have to go back to and reread. So just please ensure that, that your child has used that. And then yes, teachers do teach children how to take notes. Although what I would say is that we don't have a systematic approach grades 6th, 7th through 8th right now as far as taking notes, because it depends on the grade and the subject.
And I know in 7th grade, there's science and social studies specifically. They do note taking on like a beginning thing. They'll have a packet, and when you open the packet, there's pieces and lines missing. So as they teach the lesson, the kid's now filling in those lines. So they're kind of teaching them how to, what's the thing that goes here? This is the full note, and they're having the kid, listen to the lesson and then fill in those areas. So it's like a beginning note-taking lesson.
I think also going back to what you had said about like the playing Columbo, if you were to take one of those graphic organizers that Jeff is going to share, and as your child is telling you about whatever content area, you're filling it in and then showing them, like, look at all of the things that I learned, from everything that you shared for me, it may draw your child to actually use that graphic organizer because they see that it's worked for you. So that's just another way that you can use it. That also might help prompt asking questions to your child, like, oh, I just want to ask one more question about this. A question that just came through is about the backpack and how heavy they are. And we absolutely know that. And generally, under normal circumstances, children use lockers. So we are continuing to ask teachers to consider what they're asking children to carry. And you're absolutely right with this, with the water, with the lunch. You could send your child with an empty water bottle to lighten the load a little bit. I know that's not the greatest, but then they can fill it up while they're in school. They can go out during the class period and fill up their water bottle. That could lighten a little bit, but we are continuing conversations with teachers about what students should bring home each day. Some children decide that they want to have 2 independent reading books. Are you really going to get to those 2 in one day? Could you just choose one? So these are the negotiations that we continue to have in school and I'm sure you as well at home. And as Jeff said, children always know better than the adults. So it's that constant battle that we have.
And like, the one thing right off the bat is if your child's carrying a textbook back and forth, we give kids textbooks in whatever classes they have them in, and they're left at home. So if you see your kid bring a textbook
Jeff,
back,
just to share with the situation of sharing texts, that isn't always available. So I do want to just mention that that normally we give every child can take a textbook home, and then they share the texts that are in class. So this year we don't have enough for everyone to have them at home. In addition, a copy per child that could potentially be, So that is another piece. So I see that one of the moms wrote down that she did rid the binder and that her son is using 5-section notebooks. And she got rid of the majority of stuff except additional notebooks needed in folders.
and the awesome thing about that is that's just the quintessential example. You looked at an organizational system and you tweaked it and you adjusted it to what's going to work better for the kid. Both the weight in the backpack and then probably what's going to work better academically too. And that's the whole point of organization. It's just keep revising and looking at what works better.
And I think I would say that, sometimes it's very difficult for a child to part with something because they truly believe that they need it. And if you are able to win that battle and say, you know what, I'm just taking this for today. And if if your child, if you go to school and your teacher's upset, then I will take responsibility for that. I will email your teacher. And then when they get home, they'll realize that it was fine. One thing we do really want your child to bring is their fully charged device. And obviously whatever the teacher says that they need, whether it be the packet or a notebook. But if they don't have every single piece of paper and every single folder, it really will be fine. Teachers will adapt. And again, teachers are adapting to this as well. So it's been challenging for all of us. So thank you for your patience. And like the mom wrote here, she just did it and it seems to be working for her child. So I suggest that you try that. So yeah, mom writes, my son felt he needed it. I told him exactly what you said. Oh, what I said. Okay. I'll take the blame for it. So it worked, and it worked out. So thank you for sharing that.
Any other questions, Monica?
That's all. That's all I see.
Well, as I said several times, do not hesitate to contact me, Jen or Amory, Madison or Ray, about helping you or your child in organizing themselves, because especially this time that we're in, which is different. We're doing school differently, and it's way more important to be on top of everything and to be organized. And please contact us if your child is struggling. We'd be more than happy to meet with them.
It's great. Thank you. That was so helpful. Thank you so much for all that information. Appreciate it. I think that does it then. Any other questions? I guess we're good. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great evening. Thanks again, Jeff.
Good evening.
Bye.
Thanks, Madison.